Imagine stepping into a 1970s luxury car, a cockpit wrapped in polished wood, rich leather, and a riot of solid metal switches, each one cold and heavy beneath your fingertips. Here, every surface feels deliberate and dense. The analog gauges clustered in a dashboard, more like a control center than a driver's seat. This was a world where comfort and spectacle weren't limited by screens or safety warnings, but by daring, cost, and imagination. Yet so many of these features didn't just fade away. They were hunted down by new safety laws, environmental rules, and fears of liability. Some were banned because they were too risky, others because they were simply too extravagant for a world turning practical. Today we're counting down 12 of the most outrageous and now forbidden luxury car features ever built, ranging from mechanical marvels to indulgences that border on disbelief. Which vanished masterpiece claims the top spot? Let's start our journey with number 12. Retractable headlights brought a sense of theater to every nighttime drive. With a flick of the switch, electric motors whirred to life and lifted hidden headlamps from behind seamless body panels. The Lamborghini Countach, Porsche 928, and Corvette C4 all embrace this spectacle, headlights rising in 2 to 4 seconds, sometimes with a faint mechanical sigh as if the car itself was waking up. Beyond aesthetics, these pop-up housings often concealed more than just bulbs. On some models, secret storage compartments lurked beneath the headlamp covers, a nod to the era's obsession with hidden luxury, but the magic had its price. Cold weather could jam the mechanisms, leaving drivers stranded in the dark, or with a lopsided, half-awake stare. Regulators grew wary. Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard 108 demanded fixed impact-resistant illumination, and the moving parts of pop-up designs became liabilities in crash scenarios. By the 1990s, the rulebook closed on this mechanical drama. Yet for a generation of enthusiasts, the ritual of watching those headlights emerge from the darkness remains one of the purest expressions of automotive personality, a reminder that spectacle once lived on the very surface of the car, and that even headlights could be a hidden treasure. And these were only the beginning of the secrets luxury cars held inside. Number 11, the analog instrument cluster, stands as a monument to a time when the driver's relationship with the machine was tactile, direct, and unmediated by electronics. In the dim glow of warm filament bulbs, satin-finished bezels framed sweeping needles that danced across handcrafted dials, each gauge a tiny work of art, assembled by skilled hands in the workshops of Rolls-Royce, Bentley, and the flagship Cadillacs of Detroit. There were no speed limiters, no warning chimes, no flickering LEDs to tell you what not to do. The speedometer needle could sweep far past the legal limit, restrained only by the courage of your right foot and the honesty of the mechanical linkage beneath the dash. This was luxury as personal agency, a cockpit that trusted the driver to interpret the world through the language of pressure, temperature, and revs. But as the 1980s wore on, the analog cluster's theater gave way to the cold logic of standardization. Regulations and liability fears demanded warning lamps, electronic governors, and eventually the digital dashboards that promised safety but erased the artistry of the analog era. The old clusters lingered longest in the grandest cars, but even these would soon yield to the coming age of electronic oversight. Number 10, the swivel front seat, captures a kind of grace that modern cars have quietly engineered out of existence. In the Chrysler Imperial of the late 1970s, a passenger could press a button and feel the entire seat glide outward, rotating up to 90 degrees on a powered base. The mechanism was more than a parlor trick. Beneath the polished leather, a gear-driven pivot and slip-ring electrics kept every adjustment working, even as the seat turned to greet the world outside. For anyone in formal wear or with stiff joints, this was dignity on demand, a small moment of theater before the door closed and the journey began. But the very geometry that made these seats so welcoming also made them a nightmare for safety engineers. As crash standards evolved, regulators saw that a rotating seat could throw seatbelt angles out of alignment, undermining the careful calculations of crumple zones and restraint systems. Insurers flagged a measurable increase in injury risk, 12% higher by some accounts, when seats rotated beyond 45 degrees during a collision. By the mid-1980s, FMVSS 208 and its side impact rules rendered the feature obsolete. What remains is a memory of cabins designed as social spaces, where the line between automobile and living room blurred, if only for a moment. Number 9. The in-dash record player stands as one of the most delightfully impractical experiments of the luxury car era. Picture sliding a special 16 2/3 revolutions per minute vinyl disc, grooves shallow to fit an hour of music, into a slot beneath a walnut dashboard. The Motorola Highway Hi-Fi system, and its later rivals from Chrysler and Columbia, promised a rolling concert hall, complete with anti-skip springs and a vibration-dampened mount. But the fantasy unraveled quickly. These players could only perform on the glass-smooth stretches of interstate, and a single pothole or railroad crossing could send the needle skittering, warping Sinatra into a jazz solo. The records themselves were a proprietary format, impossible to find outside a dealer's back room. As 8 tracks and cassettes took over, the in-dash turntable became a punchline, quirky, charming, and swiftly obsolete. Yet for a brief window, the idea that your car could be both jukebox and sanctuary captured the restless optimism of the era, paving the way for the next wave of mobile office gadgets. 8th place belongs to the rear seat dictation machine, a symbol of the rolling executive suite, now almost forgotten. In the late 1970s, the Lincoln Continental and a handful of European flagships offered this feature as the ultimate tool for the business commuter. Nestled in the rear armrest, a compact reel-to-reel or cassette recorder waited for the turn of a key in the ignition, powering up only when the boss was ready to capture thoughts on the move. A slender microphone, often chrome-tipped and retractable, could be pulled from its cradle for instant dictation. The system was built into the car's electrical backbone, promising privacy and polish, with tapes discreetly swapped by chauffeurs or secretaries at the journey's end. For a brief window, it felt like the future of mobile productivity, until the arrival of the portable cassette recorder, which fit in a coat pocket and worked anywhere, made these lavish integrations seem cumbersome overnight. By the early 1980s, the market for built-in dictation vanished almost as quickly as it appeared, swept away by the relentless tide of miniaturization. Yet for those who remember, the dictation machine stands as a monument to a time when the car itself was expected to be an extension of the office, before the world decided that flexibility, not integration, was the real luxury. Number 7. Factory perfume dispensers transformed the cabin into an olfactory sanctuary at the touch of a button. In the late 1970s, Jaguar's XJ12 offered the Eau de Jaguar system, a discreet cartridge nestled behind the dash. Its scent was delivered by a tiny electric pump that pulsed fragrance through the central vents every few minutes. The effect was subtle but unmistakable. Cedar, jasmine, and leather notes drifted through the warm air, mingling with the natural aroma of the upholstery and wood trim. These systems weren't just about masking odors, they were about crafting a signature atmosphere, as distinctive as a bespoke suit or monogrammed luggage. Some even allowed drivers to swap cartridges for different moods, a ritual as personal as winding a mechanical watch. But as the 1980s drew to a close, the regulatory climate changed. The tightening limits from the EPA on volatile organic compounds reclassified many fragrance cartridges as controlled substances, citing indoor air quality and fire safety risks. By 1990, most manufacturers quietly dropped the option, wary of liability and compliance headaches. What lingers is the memory of a time when luxury meant engaging every sense, and when stepping into a car could feel like entering a private world, one scented, quite literally, to your own taste. Number 6. Hydropneumatic ride height adjusters delivered a sensation that bordered on the surreal, a car that could rise or sink at the command of a switch, reshaping itself to the driver's will. Citroën's legendary pump and sphere system defined this era, channeling mineral oil at pressures reaching 200 bar through a labyrinth of steel lines and nitrogen-filled spheres. As the engine hummed, a faint hiss signaled the hydraulic pump's work, and the entire chassis would float upward, erasing speed bumps and curb scrapes with a magician's poise. Height sensors hidden beneath the car read the load and relayed instructions to the system, ensuring that the ride remained perfectly level, no matter how many passengers or how much luggage filled the trunk. For those inside, the effect was transformative, a magic carpet glide that turned every road, no matter how ragged, into a smooth ribbon. Yet this mechanical wonder demanded constant care. Leaks, ruptured spheres, or a failed valve could leave the car sagging, stranded in a low-slung crouch. A recall by NHTSA of Mercedes hydropneumatic systems in 2012 cited the risk of catastrophic valve failure, while FMVSS 126 raised alarms about unpredictable rollover behavior if the system faltered. As air suspension offered a lighter, simpler alternative, the hydropneumatic dream faded. What remains is the memory of a ride so responsive, so eerily smooth that it seemed to anticipate every bump and dip, a lost art of engineering that prioritized sensation over simplicity. In the fifth place, retractable rear footrests define the quiet ritual of true chauffeur-driven luxury. Step into the rear of a Bentley S3, and a gentle pull on the leather tab would summon a polished wooden ottoman, rising on a gas strut hinge with the softest sigh, transforming the back seat into a rolling drawing room. For the privileged few, this was more than comfort. It was a signal that the journey itself was a ceremony, not just a means to an end. The footrest's lacquered surface, cool to the touch, invited shoes to rest, newspapers to unfold, and the mind to wander in plush seclusion. Yet beneath this elegance lurked a hard fact. Crash tests in the early 1980s revealed that when deployed, these footrests could become projectiles, increasing rear passenger head injury risk by 9% in a collision. New anchorage rules, like FMVSS 207, demanded fixed seatbelt paths and left no room for fold-out indulgence. By the mid-1980s, the last coach builders quietly retired the feature, closing the chapter on a world where backseat passengers could recline, feet up, as if the car itself were an extension of a private club. The loss marked a turning point, one plush gas strut-aided hinge at a time. It set the stage for the next wave of rear-seat entertainment, the arrival of the in-car television. Number 4. In-car television sets turned the rear cabin into a rolling cinema at a time when the idea of watching live news or cartoons from the back seat felt like pure science fiction. The Cadillac Eldorado's dealer-installed television option brought a compact cathode ray tube powered by a dedicated 12-volt inverter into the plush world of American luxury. A rooftop antenna, sometimes rabbit ear, sometimes a gleaming mini dish, searched the airwaves for a signal as the car glided along the interstate. For a few years, this was the ultimate indulgence. A soft greenish glow flickered over leather seats, the hum of the television blending with the purr of the V8, and rear passengers lost themselves in the evening news while the world sped by outside. But the fantasy came with a price. The cathode ray tube's high-voltage anode, often charged to 25,000 volts, posed a genuine implosion risk in a crash, turning the glass tube into a potential grenade. Power draw was another problem. These sets could breach the 5% cap on total vehicle electrical load, dimming lights and threatening battery life on short trips. Regulators soon stepped in. FMVSS 101 set strict limits on driver distraction, and the new era of safety engineering saw dashboard glass and loose electronics as unacceptable hazards. By the late 1980s, the in-car television quietly vanished, leaving behind only memories of a moment when the future seemed just a channel away and setting the stage for the next wave of onboard hospitality as cocktail cabinets took center stage in the battle between indulgence and safety. Coming to the top 3, the built-in cocktail cabinet stands as the pinnacle of automotive indulgence, a feature so brazen in its celebration of pleasure that its disappearance was all but inevitable. In the rear console of a Mercedes 560 SEL executive package, a polished walnut door would swing open to reveal a refrigerated compartment, its 12-volt coil keeping crystal glasses and miniature bottles chilled to a perfect 4 degrees Celsius. The cabinet's glass rack shimmered under the soft glow of ambient lighting, promising a private toast at the press of a button, even as the world blurred past the tinted windows. For a select clientele, this was not just convenience but ritual. the clink of cut crystal, the cool scent of fresh ice, the hush of a closing door. Yet the very qualities that made the minibar alluring soon marked it for extinction. By the early 1980s, a rising tide of public outrage, fueled by the founding of Mothers Against Drunk Driving and a new era of liability lawsuits, turned the presence of alcohol in a moving vehicle from a mark of status to a legal hazard. Insurers began hiking premiums for cars equipped with rear cocktail cabinets, citing a measurable uptick in injury claims and the risk of projectiles and rear impacts. Regulators, too, took notice. The interior impact rules of FMVSS 302 highlighted the danger of rigid protruding cabinets in a crash. As laws against drinking and driving tightened and social norms shifted, manufacturers quietly withdrew the option, leaving only the memory of a time when luxury meant the freedom to indulge, even on the move. The chilled cabinet, once a symbol of executive privilege, became a casualty of a world that no longer tolerated such unrestrained pleasure, setting the stage for a new era where control, not comfort, would define the limits of automotive design. In second place, the carburetor enrichment switch stands as a symbol of hands-on mastery over a living, breathing machine. Slide into the driver's seat of a 1970s Cadillac or Mercedes, and your fingers might find a chrome-tipped lever or a satisfyingly knurled knob. Your direct line to the heart of the engine. With a twist or a pull, you could send a rush of extra fuel coursing through the jets, fattening the mixture for a cold morning start or a quick surge onto the highway. The ritual was tactile and precise. Listen for the idle to rise, feel the engine's note deepen, and sense the raw chemistry of combustion responding to your touch. For generations, this was the essence of driver agency, the ability to tune the car's temperament on the fly. But with every indulgent twist came a consequence. Enrichment switches could spike hydrocarbon emissions 3 times as much, sending unburnt fuel and nitrogen oxides pouring from the tailpipe, numbers that clashed head-on with the Clean Air Act's tightening grip. By 1977, new regulations mandated closed-loop electronic fuel injection, banishing manual chokes and rich mix levers to the realm of forbidden fruit. The loss was more than mechanical. It marked the end of an era when the driver could feel like a chemist, not just a passenger in a sealed, regulated world. The carburetor switch's demise paved the way for even more dramatic battles between desire and regulation, setting the stage for the ultimate power boost that would soon face its own reckoning. And finally, in first place, factory-fitted nitrous oxide systems brought a level of drama to the luxury car world that feels almost mythic today. Slide into the driver's seat of a Mercedes 560 SEL with the rare 822 performance package, or a BMW 733i with the Motorsport Nitro Boost Kit, and you would find a secret weapon stashed behind the rear seat, a stainless steel bottle pressurized to nearly 900 pounds per square inch, feeding a solenoid-controlled nozzle on the intake manifold. The ritual was pure theater. With the engine humming and the road unfurling ahead, a discreet button, often hidden from casual passengers, waited for the driver's touch. One press, and the solenoid snapped open, unleashing a 2-second pulse of nitrous oxide into the engine. The effect was unmistakable, a surge of 30 extra horsepower, the engine's note climbing an octave, and a brief, ozone-tinged whoosh that seemed to sharpen every sense. For a few heartbeats, the sedan transformed into something feral, a luxury liner with the soul of a dragster. But this spectacle was short-lived. As the EPA's Clean Air Act amendments tightened their grip in the mid-1980s, regulators zeroed in on the system's dirty secret, injecting nitrous oxide that spiked tailpipe emissions with nitrogen oxides, pushing levels far beyond the new legal limits. Safety concerns followed close behind. A high-pressure bottle in the cabin raised the specter of catastrophic failure in a crash. By 1987, the EPA had revoked certification for factory nitrous kits, and Mercedes quietly withdrew the option from its brochures. In the end, the most outrageous power boost ever offered by a luxury automaker vanished almost as quickly as it appeared, a final, defiant burst of excess before the era of standardized, regulated performance took hold. The memory lingers, a hidden button, a sudden rush, and the knowledge that, just once, the rules could be bent for the sake of pure, unfiltered thrill. Across all 12 vanished features, a pattern emerges. As rules tightened, luxury cars lost their sense of theater and tactile individuality, traded for safety, sameness, and efficiency. What we gained in protection, we lost in human-centered drama, the odd switches, decadent comforts, and engineered quirks that made each journey personal. The road is safer now, but a little less extraordinary. Which lost feature would you bring back? Let us know and subscribe for more.